In this session, we'll be focusing on how to complete the sky. There are multiple things you're going to go over today. One is going to be using the gradient tool to create a sunset. The second is going to be able to use something called the polygonal lasso tool. Within the polygonal lasso tool, we're going to add two selections. So let's go ahead and click on the sky layer. And we're going to go in and click on the polygonal lasso tool and make our selection for the sky. Command plus to zoom in to make a closer look at the sky. So once we finish our selection, as you go through, I'm gonna quickly go through tracing the inside of the black line. Once you get to the end of your selection and you get to this point here, you can literally go on to the outside. Any shape doesn't really matter, and you get to this point here. The issue right now is I haven't selected all the sky parts yet. For example, I'm missing this portion, I'm missing this little portion, and I can add to that selection. I can have one continuous selection. And it's really important to have one continuous selection when we are using the gradient tool. So how do we add to selection? Up here in the modifier, there's something called new selection, add to selection, subtract from selection, intersect with selection. We want to go ahead and say add to selection. Adding to selection will allow you to add another section to the current selection that you already have. So if I go in here now, you can see I have just added that portion. I can also add in this portion too, if this is interpretation for sky. So now that I have that, I want to introduce you to a new tool called the gradient tool. It's also hidden under your paint bucket tool. It's called the gradient tool. The way the gradient tool works is you have something called foreground and something called background. You're going to choose two separate colors. And the foreground color, first color will be your first point, and you can have a gradient that stretches over to the second color. So if I go ahead and just use two random color for now for demonstration purpose, and I'll go show you an example. So I'm gonna go ahead and use a pink color and blue color, for example here. I'll use a pink color and a blue. So the pink is the foreground, and then you have the blue as the background. So if I start here, if I click and hold and drag in this direction, you're gonna have essentially the pink from the bottom left go all the way to the top right to the blue. So if I let go now, you can see this is the gradient that starts from the pink all the way to the blue. If you drag the opposite way, you can see the pink is up here, the blue is on the bottom. Similarly, however long you stretch will dictate how wide the gradient will be. So for example, if I went and just did a tiny stretch, then the gradient is that tiny stretch that I just did. Whatever direction you're dragging will be the direction of the stretch. Well, what you want to do is make sure you have a long, nice stretch that go all the way across from one point to the next. In this case, I want the sky to showcase a sunset or a sunrise, sunset, and I want to have the sun on the top right-hand corner. So if that's the case, I'm gonna choose a different color. I'm gonna use a yellowish orange tone, something along this line. I can now stretch the orange on this corner and then blue to the other corner. You can see now it looks like the sun is on this side shining down in this direction. Once you get the direction you want, you can go ahead and the modifier, change that to multiply as well to bring up all your black lines. Once you're done, press Command D for deselect and save your file.